Hello, everyone, and welcome to Being Naked. My name is Venus Castleberg, your host, and I am so excited to be here with you today. We have a very special guest. But before I introduce today's guest, I'd really like us to all just take a moment to take our deepest barriers down, even the ones we don't know about. Just try and uncreate them, pull them down, whatever. And remember, don't worry, you created them, so you can pick them back up if you want to. But maybe just for the next few minutes, let's try what life would be like without our barriers and without our walls. Thank you for that. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Bogdan. we will go into exactly what that means in a little bit. But for now, let's just say Bogdan is an amazing access consciousness facilitator, and he lives in Romania. He is Romanian, obviously, and he speaks Romanian, but he also speaks English. And I'm so grateful that he said that yes to being my guest today. So welcome, the Bogdan.
Thank you. Thank you for your magical invitation. And it's so lovely to be here. And I love your barriers down exercise. It got me to recognize that I still have a few thousand left.
A few thousand, right? Yeah, that's why we're even the ones you don't know about.
When you start pulling down barriers for the first time, it's like you're doing like peekaboo, like, is this enough? Just like this, just to peek over them and see what is possible. And then when you experience the way that everything expands, when you choose to no longer separate yourself from all that life is, it's a totally different reality.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So when did you first start playing with your barriers?
When I first start playing with my barriers, so maybe when I started putting them up, like growing up I grew up in Romania in the communist time, and in that times you had to be extremely correct, and you had to be perceived in the correct way. We were building the new man, and not being correct and saying the wrong joke could have really concrete consequences on you and your family. So everyone was on the lookout how they are being perceived by others. Everyone was on the lookout on how they can separate themselves more with than inner truth and from everybody else. And it was, exquisite insanity, not basic insanity. It was exquisite insanity. So I started playing with barriers. So I have a lot of experience with barriers. It's like
That's awesome. So that's great that you explained where you built them. So when
yeah.
did you start playing with taking them down?
Access access is not the first modality that I tried. It's the first one that really works for me. Is the first one which um, made me have a lasting result, but and is the first one who got me to recognize my inner truth and the value in not creating separation. Because what was valuable before was the way in which I am correct, and the way in which I can show others that I am correct and they are not. And access for me has been an extremely huge gift, and I'm very, very grateful for everything that access brought into my life. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell me about your first class, Bogdan. Did you go in all open and all your walls were down and you were like, I'm just going to come to this class and
So it took some time. It took some convincing for me to accept this kind of invitation. Until I had my first bars run, it took a long time. Until I chose the first bars class, it took a long time. And my first bars class wasn't such a great experience. It was in an Airbnb with doing on the bed the bars, and it wasn't something that I could really receive. Yeah, and of course I had some expectations and some projection going into that class. But then Dane here came to Romania like a few months later, and he did a one-day Being You class. And I know that you are a Being You facilitator, and it's such an amazing class. And you, if you haven't chose that class yet, or if you are starting to forget the energy in that class, or if you just want to renew that feeling, choose one. Choose this class is just amazing, the Being You class. And I chose to go to Bucharest to that class, and it was an adventure going there. It was in the winter, and it was a storm. The weather was extremely awful, and when I got there, they couldn't find my account, and it was just like the universe was asking me, "Are you sure you want to go there? Are you sure you want to go there? Don't you want to keep all this great conclusion that you have, all this wonderful definition that you work so hard to create? Don't you want to keep them?" And the class was absolutely great. After that one-day class, I just knew that this is what I want to do. And it took me like 1 week to do another 2 bars class and become a bars facilitator. And yeah, just this. Yeah, I choose this. More of this.
That's awesome. I love it. And I love what your story you told me before. You were like, when you first started the class, you were like in the back of the room with your arms crossed and you're like all your walls up, and luckily Dane is really good at kind of getting through the cracks.
Yeah, I was like this, and I didn't understand all these ladies around me who were laughing at Dane, and he was just being himself and jumping on the stage and doing his wonderful stuff. And I was telling myself, because I had to give up my skiing vacation to come to Bucharest. I said, really, I came all the way to Bucharest to see this class. Why are they laughing? This is really not funny, not this funny. What is this? What am I doing here? And then just paused, like half hour in, just paused and said, some of you are standing like this and saying, do your stuff, funny man, I will pass judgment on you on a later day. I was the only one stupid enough to do this. It wasn't someone else, it was just me. Okay, now you got me. It was exactly what I was thinking. I would pass judgment on you on a later date. And then I put my barriers down and started to receive actually that class. Yeah, which proves that you can be in the middle of abundance and have lack of everything just for choosing to separate yourself from what is available to you.
That's a great example. I just love that because you even said, like you let your walls down and you were just there and you could receive what was being gifted, right? And such. Yeah. And then, I mean, look at your life now. I mean, how much has your life changed since that first class just because you were willing to take your barriers down?
Yeah. There's this one little choice. Being vulnerable, being naked for that experience. Yeah? Mm-hmm. It really changed everything for me, because it is not about what was being gifted, because they didn't change the thing that he gifted.
Right.
It was everything about what I was willing to receive. And the willingness to receive what the gift that Dane was gifting that day was what changed my life. Because it's like I'm sure that I would be able to stand in there and receive nothing and be righteous about it and be angry about it, of the mistake that I made giving up my 2 days skiing that I had left on my vacation to come here. And this is why not everybody gets the same thing coming to a class. Not everybody has the same change. Not everybody has the same experience, and it's part of the magic that we are. We can refuse everything. What else can we choose? We are even
Your choice.
yeah, and look, I'm looking lately at how much are we refusing to recognize the gift that we are, and how much are we judging it and refusing to see that just us by being changes everything for everyone who comes into contact with us. It's like if you look to a sci-fi movie, they tell you when you go back in time, be very, very careful. If you do one little thing, it will change all history. So be very, very careful not to change anything. But when you are looking at this present, are you acknowledging that every choice that you make is changing the future that you will experiencing? Every little choice, the smallest of choice that you make, it's gifting you a new future, is gifting you a new set of infinite possibilities with every choice that you make. You don't have to be a time traveler to be aware of the impact that your choices are having. Yeah.
That's true. That's very true. Yep. You said something in there that I'd love to follow a little bit more. You said something about being the gift that you are.
Yeah,
say more about that.
This is the class that I put on every Christmas and nobody shows up to. This is the one class that has no participants, like recognizing the gift that you are. Because it's so easy to judge yourself, and you are encouraged to judge yourself. And are you really willing to receive the gift that you are, or are you just willing to receive the judgments that you have concluded that are correct about you? Are you really willing to perceive the way that everything is different through you being here? And like any two people look at the movies, they perceive it differently. Any two people look at a piece of art, one of your beautiful paintings, yeah, they perceive it differently. The unique collection that each and every one of us is of experience, of the unique way that we perceive the world, the unique universe that exists only because we perceive it. It exists only because we are here to perceive it. Wow. They are not interchangeable. The way that I perceive the world is not the same with any other way that anybody perceives the world. And if you get this awareness that what you perceive the world to be, your unique collection of experience, your unique collections of places that you saw, of people that you meet, of knowledge, it's unique, and it's not something that can be how do you say replaced with anything else. Yeah.
Wow, I've never seen that before. Like, yeah, everything that we see is also different. Not just who we be, but also how we see things. That's really brilliant. I've never really thought of it that way. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So when people are trying to find their value, like they're like, okay, I'm a gift. How would you have them go about doing that?
So just say it out loud. You can sit in somewhere that nobody hears you, yeah, and just say it out loud, not in your head, that I am a gift. And how does this feel to you? Is this something that brings you joy, or something that is it something that you are willing to receive the gift of you? Is it something that you are willing to explore? What gift can you really be? Is it any piece of you that is without value, or every piece of you has value? And what value are you not willing to recognize that you are having, that you, if you would be willing to recognize, would actualize a different reality? Like, this is something that everyone has to choose to do for himself, being this kind of vulnerable with himself. Yeah. What is the gift that I be? What if none of the things that I'm used to judge are really a mistake or a wrongness? Is there gifts that is hiding there on the flip side of this judgment? Is there something that, if I acknowledge, would create more? What is that? Are you willing to receive it? Are you willing to receive the gift that you are? Are you willing to create this reality that only you acknowledging the gift that you are will create it? Like, if you don't acknowledge the gift that you are, how can anybody else do it? On the start of the bars class, I love the start of the bars manual. And if somebody hears us and they didn't do a bars class, this is like the smallest gift that you can do to yourself. It's a one-day class and it's absolutely magical. And on the start of the bars class, in the manual there is, and I'm not quite quoting exactly, that you are looking everywhere for somebody to offer you the kindness that you are not willing to offer yourself. And this is not possible, because until you are willing to recognize yourself and you are willing to offer yourself kindness, nobody else can offer you, and you will not be willing to recognize this in others, even if they are really kind. So everything starts to change with you recognizing who you are and what are you really capable of, with you willing to create a brand new day in each morning, and not a kind of different variation of the day that has passed, and bringing the judgments, the conclusions, the definitions with you in the present and pushing them into the future. Yeah. What are you willing to honor with your choices? Are you willing to honor the future that you would love to create, or are you willing to honor only the limitations of the present? Yeah.
Wow. I love that. And I know there's some people out there that like, wait, what? I'm not going to be able to find my value in other people or other things. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So I used to be in politics. So in politics, you are only valuable through the eyes of others. You have absolutely no value if the others do not consider you as valuable. And this is like two extremes of the same vibration. Yeah. Just looking at others. Am I valuable? Am I valuable? Am I valuable? Am I valuable? How valuable am I? Yeah. And on the other side is this other reality in which you are willing to perceive the value of you, even if nobody else does. And you are welcoming all others who are willing to perceive it, but not make yourself dependent on if they are willing or able to perceive the value of you and the gift that you are.
Well, and I love what you said too, because you actually said, if you don't get it, if you don't get your own value, if you don't get the gift you are, if you don't get how kind you are, nobody else can get it. Yeah. Like, you have to get it first before anybody else can. That's so brilliant. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Like, I was looking like at the example from before with Dane being himself on a stage. Yeah. The gift that he was being was exactly the same. It didn't matter if I was willing to recognize it or not. He was willing to do the class, even if I wasn't willing to recognize the gift that he is. But he reached out in that wedgie that he did to me. He reached out and said like, don't you want to try something else? Aren't you tired of the result that you are creating with the choice that you are having from such a long time? Yeah. And he gave me a wedgie like, look at what you are choosing, at what your choices are creating. Wouldn't you like to order something else from the from the bounty of the universe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And we have a few guests. I just want to say hi. Hi, Christina. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Manuela. Thank you guys for being here.
Hello.
Thank you for Kay. Yep. And awesome. So let's just dive in just for fun. What is the meaning of Bogdan?
It started as a joke. It started as a joke during a class with Payne. It was an online class, and he made a joke about somebody who has her name and then the nation that she was from, and then the capacity of her as being a translator, and so all these kind of definitions. And he did a joke on that, and and I put the Bogdan in the name, and he noticed it, and he made the joke, and I made the joke back because in Slavic, Bogdan means gift of God, and I said, oh, the Bogdan is the gift from God. It remained the Bogdan. Okay, why not? And I'm perceiving that it receives a lot of judgment, and I'm playing with it, and why not?
Well, I love it because it's like, all right, so one of the things a lot of people go into is that, oh, well, Bogdan can be the gift of God, but then there's only one gift of God, and you all are not gifts of God. None of you can be gifts of God, just Bogdan. So just the Bogdan. And I'm like, that's so silly. It's like, no, of course, everybody is a gift of God, right?
God is limited. God is such a limited being who does only one gift.
Right? Yep. And you're it.
The whole eternity just gives something.
Right.
In the year 1977.
And I get it too, because but that's Venus. She's a goddess. You know, it's like, well, come on, everybody can be a goddess, and everybody can be a gift of God. Like, it's not just because of your name, right? It's because of just who you are, right? You don't have to do anything or have the right name or the right body to be a gift. You are a gift, and it's just really great to remember. And I love that story. It's so funny.
When I saw the name of your group being naked and the podcast being naked, I was sure that it was about your name. Like Venus was the Roman goddess of beauty and sexualness and prosperity, and it was always depicted being naked. And I said, that's a nice pun. Being naked, Venus being naked. and then I said, but he's also a CF, and she's invited people to possibilities. Isn't it about vulnerability? And of course, it is about vulnerability and about being able to really change something which, in absence of vulnerability, is not possible. You cannot change something without choosing to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I actually, it's so funny. I would love to actually acknowledge those of you who have come to this group thinking this was about nudity and have stayed because of right. Let's take it off. But I just really want to acknowledge you for sticking around because you were curious to find out more about vulnerability instead. So thank you for those of you who have chosen to stick around. So
everybody who chose recognize the energy of the invitation. And people choose based on the energy of the invitation. And one of the few things that give me hope is recognizing that more and more people are willing are looking for something different, and are willing to be something different, and are willing to choose something different, and are willing to choose things that don't really make sense, like they don't fit on your equation that you already consider that they are true and valuable, and you have to base all your choices on them. And this is something that I perceive growing, and I just love it. How does it get any better than that?
How does it? Well, I'm really excited because I have the inside scoop, and I hear you have an English class coming up. Would you tell us about it?
So, let me be completely vulnerable. Like when I was in Italy at the CF training, which was a few months ago, I asked Gary to give me a class. Gary, can I have a class, please? and he gave me a class. And after that, I started doing it correctly. Like I should have a site in English, because I only have a site in Romanian, and I should have a site in English before I do this class. To have the site in English, I should have good pictures done, because the pictures that I have are old. I should have better pictures done. In order to have this, I should have this. And it gets to, like, I don't have my nails done, so I cannot do the class. Talking to you last week, and you asked me, so do you have a class in English? I said, I do and I don't. What do you mean you do and you don't? So there is this class that I already facilitated a few times in my head, and I have all these things that I wrote about, and I'm so anxious to facilitate, but I didn't made any concrete steps about it. And then you give me a deadline, like, so in 3 days, are you willing to come to my podcast? And yes, of course. And everything came together, and now there is a little site about the class. There are pictures there, everything there is.
Yay!
It's such a this class is something that I'm really excited about, and I love that title. Like, don't look for what's right, look for what's possible. Because I looked for what is right. The most part of my life, I looked for what is right, and I was in fear of not being wrong. And this creates so much judgment on yourself, of everything that you create. Looking in others with projections and expectations of them. Are they willing to see the rightness in me and don't see what I'm hiding? The walls that I'm building to hide the wrongness of me. So this really alienates any other possibilities that are available to you. And just because you are unique, as we talked before, the possibilities that are available to are also unique. What is possible for you, there isn't anybody else in the world who has the same possibilities as you are. If you put this filter of right and wrong on them, what are the right possibilities? How do I choose something so it will be right, not just in my eyes, but in everybody else's eyes, who I am not willing to appear as wrong? You get just one possibility or none, or you can have two, and then you can judge which is the rightest of them, which is the one the least wrong. Yeah, and it's such an exercise of vulnerability for me looking at this, because when you are not willing, when you are willing to do anything to create that place in your life from which everything is possible, you have to be willing to give up right and wrong. You have to be willing to give up judgment. You have to be willing to receive everything that is available to you. You have to be willing to perceive the possibilities that are available to you and only to you. And maybe nobody else will understand, and nobody else will like, and nobody else will agree with them. And you have to be willing to receive even judgments of you choosing that, of you becoming that. Yeah, and what do you know about this? What do you know about this? What possibilities are hiding behind the wall of righteousness, of rightness that we are invited and forced even to create all our lives? Yeah, what is over the wall? What is there over the wall?
Well, I love that you gave up getting it right and looked for what's possible and posted the class. So we will definitely include the link. And
Please,
if
please,
you,
please.
yes.
And just
So if you,
look at the link. It's like
uh-huh.
it didn't have. I didn't have to have my nails done in order to create that link. And where are you keeping yourself from choosing what is possible for you because you don't have the nails done or anything that you made significant in order to do something correctly, in order to do something the way that is done, the way that you are deciding that it has to be done? Yeah, I hope I'm not the only one.
No. No, no. We do all try to get it right and perfect, and it all has to be just so. But what if we didn't have to get it right? I love that. So thank you so much, Bogdan. It's been so great
Thank
having you
you.
on today. And thank you everyone who's been listening and watching. We're so grateful. We hope you have a magical day.
It's been magical being naked. Yeah.
Yeah. We should do it more often, the
Yes,
Bogdan.
I will.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.